A federal high court in Abuja just delivered one of the most severe fraud sentences in Nigerian legal history. 490 years. Not as a metaphor, not as a headline exaggeration, a literal cumulative sentence, handed down to one man for one set of crimes, inside one courtroom. His name is Robert Orya, and to understand how a single person ends up with a sentence longer than 6 human lifetimes combined, we need to go back to where this started. Robert Orya wasn't a street-level fraudster. He was the managing director of one of Nigeria's most strategically important financial institutions, the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM. This was not a man operating in the shadows. He sat at the top of an institution with direct influence over how billions of naira moved through Nigeria's export economy. That position, the trust that came with it, is exactly what this case is about. To understand the weight of what happened, you need to understand what NEXIM was supposed to do. The bank was established to support non-oil exports and provide development financing to Nigerian businesses, a deliberate effort to reduce the country's dependence on oil revenue and help local companies compete internationally. That mission required trust. Businesses needed to believe that when NEXIM approved a loan, due diligence had actually happened, that the money was going where it was supposed to go, that the person signing off on these disbursements was protecting the institution, not exploiting it. Robert Orya was that person. According to the case presented in court, Orya approved and facilitated loan disbursements of more than 1.36 billion naira to a company, funds that remained unpaid for several years. Investigators say these transactions formed part of a wider fraud scheme estimated at about 2.4 billion naira. But the number alone doesn't tell the full story. EFCC counsel told the court that Orya bypassed internal controls and violated standard banking procedures to authorize these facilities, using a shell company as a conduit to siphon public funds under the appearance of legitimate lending. A shell company. Not a real operating business with real export activity, which was the entire point of NEXIM's mandate, but a structure designed to look legitimate on paper while moving money somewhere else entirely. This is the part that makes financial crime at this level so difficult to catch in real time. It doesn't look like theft, it looks like paperwork. Cases like this don't move quickly. Robert Orya was arraigned back in November 2021. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, and the case proceeded through years of court proceedings, evidence presentation, and legal argument. This is something people don't always see when a verdict makes headlines. The actual work, tracing disbursements, reconstructing how a shell company received funds, proving that internal banking controls were deliberately bypassed, that takes years of forensic financial investigation. EFCC's case ultimately rested on showing a clear pattern: approvals that didn't follow proper procedure, money that moved to an entity with no real capacity to repay it, and a paper trail that, once unwound, pointed directly back to the man who signed off on it. When the case reached its conclusion, Justice F.E. Masiri delivered the judgment, convicting Orya on 49 separate counts filed by the EFCC. 49 counts. The offenses included criminal breach of trust, fraud, misappropriation of funds, impersonation, official corruption, and abuse of office. This wasn't one charge with one verdict. This was an entire architecture of financial crime, broken down into 49 individual legal violations, each one proven separately, each one carrying its own weight in court. Here's where the number that made headlines actually comes from. The court imposed a 10-year prison term on every single count and ordered that the sentences run consecutively, not concurrently, where multiple sentences overlap, and you serve the longest one. Consecutively, one after another, count by count. 10 years, multiplied by 49 counts, brought the total sentence to 490 years. It's a number that's impossible to actually serve. And that's not an accident. Courts use consecutive sentencing like this specifically to send a message that extends beyond the individual case, particularly in financial crimes involving public trust, where the goal isn't just punishment, but deterrence. So what does a sentence like this actually mean for Nigeria? On one hand, it's being treated as a landmark case, a signal that financial crimes inside public institutions can carry consequences as serious as any other major offense. On the other hand, this case took years to conclude. Forensic tracing, court proceedings, appeals processes. The system worked, but it worked slowly. And for every Robert Orya whose case eventually reaches a courtroom, there are schemes still unraveling, still working their way through investigation, still waiting for their own verdict. This case matters not because it's an isolated incident, but because it shows what accountability looks like when it actually happens. 490 years, a number designed to outlast the man it was given to. A reminder that the most damaging financial crimes in Africa aren't always committed in the shadows. Sometimes they're signed, stamped, and approved from inside the very institutions meant to protect us. If you want more real, documented cases like this, broken down properly, no fiction, no exaggeration, subscribe to Africlore and hit the notification bell. We're just getting started. See you on the next.